Chloe Cole, an advocate for the detransitioned, was herself a victim of this harmful gender ideology by those who have betrayed their sworn duty to protect patients. And yet, she now works not just to advocate for the detransitioned and for victims' rights, but also to tell stories. She comes to us in a short interview here, but in the larger portion, her director, Emilio Martinez, discusses the influence conservatives and Christians can have on the culture and how he got to begin this journey to fight for the detransitioned. Enjoy this interview on cultural warfare with Jon Croft. Well, I'm the head dude of MediaMoses.com. I basically created it, but what we do is we do conservative Christian entertainment, news, and media. But what we're working on is more with campaigns, and which is building new projects, helping build new projects. And I'm a former filmmaker, so I was at AFM for years trying to pitch projects. And I'm a Florida filmmaker, so a lot of those projects didn't speak well in Hollywood, you know. But I hear that you, Chloe, are working on an acting uh, gig in the future.
You could say that, yeah.
That's great.
So me and Emilio are actually working on a film project, and a few months ago, I can't remember how long now, but we had just finished a music video and we had released it earlier this summer, and it did pretty well. But we want to use it to promote potentially a short film and a feature length film down the line about my testimony to put it into a more creative format.
Wonderful. Yeah, creative in the sense that this will be a narrative.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really feel that narrative has to happen more in the conservative community. I think we need to have a better grasp of how Hollywood does things.
right.
And so what that really means is better marketing. That means being better at doing this kind of thing, right? Where we're helping each other, promoting each other, working together, not kind of having our little areas around the country, because Hollywood has Hollywood, right? It's a community, but we have all of our little separate little groups around the country and don't always work together. And that's kind of a shame, you know?
That's one thing that really frustrates me about conservatism because, I mean, I feel like naturally it's a little bit more of a utilitarian um,
Yeah,
mindset to be conservative. But
right.
also, there are so many conservative artists out there, so many writers, people who make videos, people who illustrate. And as an artist myself, I find it very frustrating that that us conservative creators don't come together as often as we should, or
Right.
create the media that we should as often.
Absolutely. What do you feel about this, Emilio?
Um, well, first of all, I'm the guy that came up with the idea. Well, let's make a
Mhm.
movie about detransitioners. I
Okay,
came up
great.
with the idea because I was actually complaining about faith-based films. A friend of mine was trying to get me to go to a film to go support it, and I was like, "We don't need another faith-based film like that." And I was about ready to post on Twitter, like, "We don't need another faith-based film about a Christian music artist that goes through these horrible struggles to come up with their number one hit." You
Because it's so
know?
formulaic.
Yeah, exactly. Have
Yeah.
you ever seen that movie Walk Hard? Like they totally make
Yes.
fun of
They
musical
make fun of it.
biopics,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's what Christians have done. We've done like Walk Hard to Jesus, you know?
It's so strict. It's a
Right. And
very
it was
strict
like, and
genre.
again, those
Yeah.
films have value. Those films,
Sure.
great. But I was just complaining to my friend. He was like, "We have to go see it. We have to go support it." I'm like, I don't tithe to Hollywood.
Right.
I don't
Right.
tithe to movie studios. I you tithe to a church. We don't have to go support it unless they are putting out a really good product. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I've seen
Yeah.
it before, and it's not my cup of tea. And I was about ready to complain on X, like we need to do this. And I said, well, you know what?
Yes.
We ought to do like a movie about a detransitioner. And then I went, wait a second. What? Instead of me saying they, and you, I'm a
Right.
producer. You know, I'm in the Producers Guild.
And now you're hoping someone will come and support your film, right? So,
Right, exactly. Now
right.
I'm like,
So,
but you don't have to tithe. I want to inspire
mhm.
the audience to go like, oh my gosh, This is a great idea. This is a story that needs to be told. And more importantly,
Yeah.
these are stories that Hollywood is not touching
No,
at
they're not.
all. And I'm
They
like,
would never do that.
the Hollywood 30 years ago would have picked up a detransitioner story, right? It's like the girl who cut off her breasts, film at 11, It's like, because it's got
Yeah.
trauma, drama, and ripped from the headlines sensationalism. But for
Yeah.
some odd reason that no one can figure out, they're not doing it. They've got all kinds of other
Yeah.
stuff.
See, I
They've
can't
got
figure out why that would be.
just
They have
can't.
a
It's
whole
like boggles
ideology,
my mind. Yeah.
right? This is a whole ideology that they have to support. And what I talk about sometimes is propaganda, and why we need to get wise to how propaganda works and why we need to differentiate faith-based and Hollywood propaganda from each other, but also propaganda from art. There's a difference between propaganda and art. Art is authentic. You're dealing with authentic issues. You haven't made up your mind about everything, right? You're dealing with, like Hollywood used to make great product, even only 10 years ago. 20 years ago, great art, right? I was part of trying to make this great art and embedding Christian values, embedding conservative values in them, right? Because I believed that that could help kind of nurture good art in Hollywood. And it's true, it could have. But we have to distinguish between, in my view, especially as Christians, right? That propaganda is when we've made up our mind and we've got this formula that's rah rah us. And if you don't like it, there's something wrong with you, right? And so that's understandable to some degree with certain issues, right? Obviously, some issues are very black and white moral issues, but there's characters in stories. There's real people in stories. And you have to, if you're a writer, you have to love your characters. You have to love even the villains. You have to show kindness towards them in the sense of these are human beings, right? And so when you give them nuance and you don't make them a mustache twirling villain that's kind of silly, right? And one dimensional, now you're talking about real life. Like now you're talking about Chloe Cole's situation. And I
And
respect a great deal what you've been doing, Chloe.
thank you. I really
And
appreciate that. I think that as conservatives and more importantly as Christians, we're really starting to encroach on an opportunity to really break um, through the mold
yeah,
in a creative way to break into um, all sorts of different creative industries in music, in film, and others. Because I think Hollywood has completely lost the plot, and most people see that now, and they're just so out of touch. But we can be the ones portraying those real stories that people actually want to hear, such as those who have been hurt by these uh, the various infections of our culture, such as
yeah,
transgenderism. People want to. I think a lot of people would love to see a story about a young woman like me someday soon. But
of course.
we can't lose that opportunity. And I think the
No, we
time
can't.
for us creatives to act is now.
Yeah, and I think it's similar to what's happened in 2020, where there's also that issue of injustice happening in society. And we don't want to miss the opportunity to also deal with that issue because I looked at 2020 as kind of a world war in a way. It was a world war that was happening within civil governments and not happening between nation to nation, but a governments against their own people. And so, that's another issue to deal with. And your issue is very similar in the sense that it's authorities, people speaking from authority, whether it's doctors, teachers, parents, even government officials, and they're not giving, I think, the real truth to underage people. And the real shame is that it's underage people. Like that's the real shame. I think there's a real disturbing underbelly there that says that we've raised a whole generation of adults that themselves are not responsible and in their own, they're not holding themselves to higher standards that, like, let's say a doctor especially should be holding themselves to. I mean, that's a professional standard that's supposed to be above almost anything to be a doctor. Um, but to me, in my view, they've violated all of that and lost the trust of so many people. I think to portray that kind of violation against the public is a serious drama. I mean, it's a serious, I think, narrative that has to be told. And people like you could do it. People like Emilio could do it. A lot of conservatives could do it, and especially Christians, because we have a history in Christianity of being the people who are taken advantage of, even by governments, right? As Christians, we have a sense of ethics, right? To not, like, let's say, to turn the other cheek, to not fight fire with fire, right? To have a greater ethic, no matter what people use against us, right? That we will not do the same to them. And so these are ethics that are upheld by Christ that he teaches us, but that doesn't mean we don't defend ourselves, right? It doesn't mean we don't defend our communities. And I think in history there's many examples of this, like the Crusades, for example. And there has to be a point at which a society has to defend its victims. And when we continue to turn the other cheek, as we say, I don't think it's in a way an authentic case of that, because there really are victims. When we can say, you know what, you did that to me, but I forgive you. That's what Christ is talking about. But he's not saying, I'm going to let you harm children. He's not saying that, right? So when we as a society, a collective society, start to do that, that's, I think, a misinterpretation of what Christ is saying when he's talking, turn the other cheek. And that's also giving up the innocent to harm. I don't think we can do that as Christians.
Right. And I mean, a lot of my generation has felt like older generations have turned the other cheek to a lot of our issues, and we felt betrayed in a lot of different ways by
Yeah,
authority figures, by our parents for not raising us with the same values that they were given, by our government for the COVID era policies that stripped us of having a normal adolescence, not
right.
allowing us to attend school, not allowing us to attend even our own churches. And there was a lot of anger, there's a lot of resentment there, and a lot of, even I would argue, like anti-American sentiment, where a lot of a lot of young people across the political continuum would, if the country burned down, they wouldn't care. They don't trust that the Constitution is something that will be upheld because of the things that have happened to us during our upbringings. But what better than a creative medium, a piece of art, something beautiful to aspire to that can show them the way to build back our culture and to build back a better world for the the children that will follow our generation than through
Absolutely.
art.
Absolutely. Has something kind of like impressed you in recent history that makes you feel like this is your path? This is where you want to do to work on films, to work on stories? Did something happen to where you felt this is the way I have to go?
Well, I mean, for the past 3 years that I've been speaking out, I have mostly been making use of my testimony, orally and through video formats and through
Right.
speaking to people. But I think that while people using their own testimonies has affected significant cultural change, if we want to truly overtake our culture, then we have to do so through the arts. And I've always felt that way as someone who was creatively minded. I've always been an illustrator, I've always loved music, and that was exactly how I got sucked into these far left-wing spaces and into transgender ideology in the first place. It was through these people sharing these beautiful mediums of art, illustration, glorifying things like even the surgery scars. And if we
Wow.
want to ameliorate that, we have to that's how that's the final way that we're going to have to fight it.
I agree. I agree. Of course, we're both artists, right? So we see this as an important path. I think Andrew Breitbart famously said that politics is
Downstream of culture.
downstream of culture. Thank you. You
Oh,
know this
yeah.
quote
Of
as
course,
well.
most conservatives promptly forget that.
They do, don't
When it
they?
comes
How
to
do they
art, they
do
go,
that?
well, that okay, that means we need to argue our way out of this. Okay.
Isn't it strange? It's
It,
so
it
strange
is.
because they say that and then they focus on politics. And I'm thinking, no, no,
Man.
politics is downstream. You got it backwards. You got to focus on the culture, and then the politics can't help but be influenced by the culture. Voters have to vote, right? So if the voters are affected directly through the culture and affected in a way that's compassionate, understanding, and there's better arguments on our side, we're going to be able to speak through the arts, through the culture. So I guess you could say I try to educate people on this because I feel that many people don't understand how to affect the culture. You kind of have to be focusing more on the arts. Sure, things that like Donald Trump can do, for example, if you want to talk about politics, there are things Donald Trump could do, for example, like he's talking about trying to affect Hollywood and things like this. But I find for the most part, people aren't doing that in a way that Hollywood would do it, right? They would just make a nice puff piece, or they would make a good film with great directing and great cinematography, and we would all be wowed. And then we wouldn't even be talking about politics, but somehow this affects the ballot. It really does, right? Because people think differently. And they realize, and this is where I think Hollywood went wrong, that they stopped being empathetic to people like Chloe. They stopped being empathetic and understanding of the people who are falling between the cracks and not being taken care of. And they stopped understanding their plight, their situation, because they were pushing an agenda. They were too busy pushing that agenda. And so this makes them look bad to do that, right? So they can't admit it. But what we can do is show that empathy. We can show that understanding. And I think you're right, Chloe, that we have to tell stories that demonstrate that. Is there anything you guys can say about this upcoming film without giving spoilers?
Well, just to let you know, we don't have a complete script yet. Everybody asks, that's the first question. Do you have a feature script? I'm like, you know what? I did not want to force Chloe and a writer in a room for 3 months to sit down and hash out a script about her life without funding. That's not fair to either of them as artists or people to take that spec burden on.
Yes,
Also,
that is
in
a lot.
order to create an incredibly excellent script, you need to put it through a development process because that's my main gig that I've had in the industry is doing
Right.
development, and it was a very powerfully insightful experience about the creative thing because you when you
Yeah.
have an
Yeah.
idea, that's not the script. You
It's
have
not
to
good
go
enough.
through all these rewrites and iterations and pulling your hair out and people going like that stinks for you to finally go back and go like, wait a second, I know where the plot twist is.
Yes.
I know who did the murder or whatever, and that's or I know I just discovered the genre subtleties of this thing. You need to
Yes.
put it through a whole like process, and that takes a lot of energy
It
and a
does.
lot of commitment, a lot of devotion.
And there's
So
a lot of feedback you have to get.
right. So what I said is I'm going to take all right. All my years in independent film said you don't necessarily need to start with a script unless that's already there. What you need to start with is a development process, and you have to piece it together little by little. That's one of the reasons I did a
Yes.
music video because people are like, "Why did you do a music video?" I said, "Well, first off, I've never worked with Chloe before professionally, so I wanted to create a project that we could work on together.
Get your feet wet.
Yeah, to get our feet wet, see if this is doable.
Hmm.
And you know what? Big, huge check mark completed. Where I discovered that Chloe is actually an incredible actress. She's just
Hmm.
got an incredible amount of natural talent,
I
Yeah,
mean,
I
it's
saw
right?
that
it's
On
too.
set.
been about 3, 4 years as a child method acting, if you look at it that way.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
should have
It's like,
asked you that before. Yes.
no, like on set, she
Great.
was asking all the right questions. She was like, okay, so in this moment, where am I coming from and where am I
Hmm.
at here in the story? I was like,
What's my motivation? Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, it's like, so you haven't studied with like any like classes or anything? She's like,
Some people
no,
are
no.
naturals. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, and then she was even doing little things. Like she was saying, like, okay, so the last take, I need a little help, guys. I need to remember if I was carrying that in my right hand or my left hand. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's like, there are actors that don't understand the
Continuity.
importance of script
Yeah.
supervision, right? Yeah, it's like, wow,
That
that's
was one of
amazing.
my first jobs. Yeah.
It
That was
was
one of my first
Part
amazing,
of
jobs.
and then
the part of the experience, I feel like I feel like in a sense my transition worked out and that I learned how to act because for one, I was taking steroids every week and I was also like very carefully studying the men around me, my brothers, my dad, the boys at school, even just like men in
Interesting.
public. I would
Yeah.
try to I would try to mimic them and act like them in pretty much every part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
Wow.
I learned to how I think very ostensibly I could apply that to other
That
forms
makes a lot of
of acting.
sense for someone who
exactly.
transitioned.
Like she
Yes.
developed
Yeah.
all the skills for a great actress. It's like, yeah, you go study with Chubbuck, and you won't be able to they won't be able to teach you anything,
Right.
you
Right.
know, because you've already done it, right? So yeah, so that's one of the things
Yeah. These
I
things are done
started.
through experience anyway. Yeah.
Right. Then the next step, I said, okay, well, now that we've got that, let's do some like, some like a little bit more press and kind of because you got to get the buzz going.
Yeah. Good idea.
It's like today they just they dropped the news that Mel Gibson is going to be coming out with a movie in 2 years. Why did they drop it
Yes.
today? Why did Mel
It's true.
Gibson? Why is he doing the podcast rounds?
I was just
Because
reading that
he's
today
like,
too.
because he knows like people are going to forget next week that he's doing it, but
Mm-hmm.
when the movie comes out, they'll be like, oh, that's right, that's he was going to do this, right? So you got to get buzz. Then the other thing is,
You
I
do.
said like I've started pitching the project around, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, first of all, I see when you're pitching, people's eyes are like, oh, hold on, wait, just, they get like all freaked out. I'm like, no, no, no. I calm them down by saying, look, we're
Yes.
taking this step by step. We're not ready to do a formal pitch because I'm doing this the right way. I want to get a short film, a proof of concept done, so we can also help to develop the story. Because, and then I really want to cast Chloe as herself. Because when I started looking around, thinking, like,
Right.
who could play a role of a young woman? Like, who could play the role of a young boy who comes out of the closet and a young woman who comes to Christ, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
that's who can play that role. I was like, oh yeah, and they also have to be like half Filipino. I was like, oh boy, this is like, and they have to have all the charm. I'm like, this is
Yes.
like backstage casting.
You
My
can do
my
a lot.
roster is
You can
Well,
going
do a lot.
down.
I'm sure there's a lot of aspiring actors out there, but if things don't end up working out, and not
Oh,
to
wait,
interrupt,
wait,
but I
there she
do
is.
See, and she's
I do
humble.
have
She's
some
great to work with.
I do
She's
have
not
some
like
stuff to attend to, so I do have to leave pretty soon. I don't
okay,
know when
yeah,
you guys are,
Great
are
to see
ending
you.
this, but I
yeah,
appreciate you having me on.
I hope
yeah,
we can do
yeah,
this
yeah.
again sometime.
I would
Yeah,
love
but
to.
she's
It's such
yeah.
such a great thing we're doing. I love that she's involved and she's doing a great thing. Have you seen the movie Dragon Slayer?
No, who's that with?
It's a 1981 film. It's I forget the director's name. But Dragon Slayer is a fantasy film about these guys who it's basically a deconstruction of Saint
Oh wait,
George and the Dragon.
yeah,
Have you
yeah.
seen it?
Actually, okay, yeah. It's been like a lot of
Yes.
years. It's
The
starting
female
to pop up
character,
in my personal IMDb. So
yes, as you know, well, if you remember it, the female character in the beginning comes off as a male, right?
right,
She, in a sense, right, identifies, and because she's hiding her identity as a female because she could be murdered and killed by this dragon, right? And
right.
so her father seeks to protect her. Of course, in that society, doing that would be considered cowardly, which they didn't handle in the movie because that would be pretty cowardly, especially because all these other girls are being sent to be eaten by this dragon. But she, oh no, she's gonna hide. But like what they did is they actually modulated her voice in post to make it sound more masculine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing too. Is like we have AI and we have that kind of thing. So you can like de-age a person. But
Hmm.
the other reason I wanted Chloe to actually do it is because she's actually gone through the journey a little bit. She's really
Yes.
going to be able, like, I've got this great talent on my hands, which I didn't know I was going to find that when I started on this journey. But as I got to know her and I got to be friends with her, and then, and there's other parts of the story actually that are around her that haven't been told publicly yet because she's on podcasts and Newsbite. She's
Yes.
testifying in front of Congress and on Jordan
Yeah.
Peterson. And
Amazing.
it's like a documentation of what actually happened to her. It's not the full context of the world that she was coming out of.
Right.
And the word, all the behind the scenes stuff. That's what you get in a
Mm-hmm.
biopic, is you get all the behind the scenes kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
that gives a bigger picture
Yeah.
to the narrative, right? And as you were
Right.
saying,
Right.
like earlier, when you art makes arguments,
Yes.
right? It
Mm-hmm.
makes debates. In fact, it's ironic. The person that really taught me that is actually a trans person
Oh
who's a
yeah.
trans activist,
Yeah, I believe it.
right?
Yep.
It's a
They're
person.
doing this well. They're doing this kind of thing very well.
It's a person who was trying to figure out why Star Wars was such a great story,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
The
also,
hero's journey.
huh?
Right. The hero's journey.
Oh yeah, no, this person took he goes by the name Melanie Ann Phillips and also by
Okay.
the she her pronouns. I did not
Sure.
realize he was trans when I studied with him. I was studying more about him when
Hmm.
on the internet when this was years ago when I came across his trans activism pages,
Right.
right? Yeah. And he'd probably be upset that I'm using he him pronouns for him, but that's what he is. But here's the
Well, I
deal.
can honestly get confused too. I
I
will mix
know.
them up.
Well, I gotta tell you, when I was studying with him, I was like, this is the most masculine woman I have ever come across.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's very masculine in the way he thinks, the way he talks, right?
Yep.
But because he was struggling with this whole issue within himself and why Star Wars was in trying to understand narrative itself, came out with this like brilliant analysis of how stories work. But he came up with this thing called the story mind, which says
Yeah.
that every story is simply a narrative journey around a problem, right?
Right.
And you have to have all these different perspectives, right? And then you
Hmm.
notice that that's how people kind of naturally argue. Like if you take an abortion argument, people will be like, "Well, abortion is wrong. It takes a life." And then somebody will start bringing in narrative elements. They'll go, "Yeah,
Right.
but how about that young girl that she's
That 12-year
14,
old.
that 12-year-old?" And you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh man, it just got complicated."
Recently, I heard the when your granddaughter gets pregnant and she's 11 years old, what are you going to do? That's the latest narrative I heard.
Right, exactly. So it's
Yeah.
like those are valid stories,
Sure.
right? And as Christians, we honor narrative so much because God not only constructed the rules of narrative, but he also employed narrative as his way to come into the world, right? He didn't
Right.
they say the Bible is not a
Logos.
science, it's not a science book, right?
Right. Right.
It's a narrative,
It is a
because you
narrative.
can always
Yeah.
say whether the world was created in 6 literal days or not.
Hmm.
That narrative of the creation and Adam and Eve in the garden is incredible
It
to
is.
understanding humanity. And then you
Absolutely.
take the Gospels, right? Like like the Bible itself is just like narrative and commentary, right? That's the
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
Testament, narrative and commentary. And it's just really powerful. And then you see it
Powerful.
like rounding up in Revelation, where the evangelist John says, he talks about how they overcame Satan by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony.
Yeah.
And see, that drives me to go like, that's we don't need more Christian films. We need more Christian filmmakers
Yep. More
telling more
testimonials.
Christian stories, or more Christian stories, but more. I'm not saying like, like, oh, here's a testimony.
Right.
She read
Or like nice stories. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
she read the sinner's prayer, got it. Okay, got baptized 2 weeks later. Okay, no, it's like,
But we need
so
more Chloe Coles. Like we
we
need
need
more
more
Chloe
Chloe
Coles.
Cole. That's why I
Yeah.
really have like just been psyched about this project so much, because
So great.
it's like Chloe, like I said, this is a story about a young trans woman No, a young trans boy who came out of the closet and a
Hmm.
young woman who came to Christ. And it's funny, I'll get people giving me pushback on both sides. They're like, "Can you tone down the Jesus thing?" I'm like, "It's listen to Chloe talk 5 minutes. She
Yeah.
cannot not talk about how Jesus has had an impact in her life."
Well, in a
You
way,
know?
instead of saying detransition, it's about saying redemption, right? Like all of us get redeemed. For her, it's being redeemed in that way, right?
No, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like it not only redemption, but like redemption in an incredibly
Mm,
Christ-centered way.
visceral.
I had this
Yeah.
big influencer who's like ex-gay. That's part of his
Hmm.
thing now. He was telling me, "Why are you doing a detransitioner story? That's not aspirational. That's like,
What?
yeah." He was telling me he's a
He's
provocateur.
thinking the other
So
way around. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. He was like, "Why are you doing that? Like nobody wants to be a detransitioner." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Chloe
that's
does.
fair. Nobody wants to have gone through that journey. Why are you telling it? Like they should just be treated as a cautionary story, and then they should go retire," he said.
Mm,
And I was like,
maybe we want to put them in the closet somewhere.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm like, I asked him like, you, you're ex-gay, and you come out and you tell your testimony. That's great. He goes, "No, I'm retired." I'm like, "You're retired? You were like, he was just on a big podcast this week, right?" And I'm like, but when he said that, they weren't aspirational. Suddenly, it was like I got the
Yeah.
image. That hold on a
Interesting.
second, I got the image. Yeah, they've got all these scars, and then I went, wait a minute. Who else had a bunch of scars in
Oh,
his resurrected body?
I love that. I love that.
I
It's
said,
very
who?
visceral.
I went, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is, see, that's, I got to tell you, again, going back to the narrative, now I'm like, God is so wise because in his story, it just immediately came to me like Thomas putting his hand in the side and going like,
Yes. And
right,
Jesus was willing to do that for him. Jesus was willing to do that for him. He didn't
right,
get angry
right.
at him,
And
right?
it's like it's redemptive and resurrect. We are a people
Yes.
of the resurrection.
Like if you need this for you to come into my kingdom, so be it. I will be
Right,
there.
exactly. So
Yeah, yeah.
now I look at the scars of these detransitioners and I'm like,
It's beautiful.
right, exactly. It's like
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Jesus does not have to redeem them in this life physically to redeem them in all of
Mm,
eternity. Suddenly, I want to be
yeah.
that. I want to be that. I want Jesus to take my scars
It's
because
like
I
a
have scars
tattoo.
in my,
It's the tattoo of your salvation in Christ. Yeah.
right, exactly. I have scars in my own life, emotional
Yeah.
scars and things I've done to my body, abusing it, over the years and before I was Christian. And well, I've got a pillow back here. Let's trying to
It's
get,
coming in on
excuse
you.
me, pillow. He's talking to me, not you.
No, that's so
Um,
true. That's so true.
but yeah, the yeah, but when he said that, it was great again that I just had that insight that I and it made me think like detransitioner, like the detransitioner stories, maybe why Hollywood's not touching them because they know this
They're powerful.
detransitioner story is so powerful, it can actually save this nation because
Exactly.
it's like that moment I was thinking about this morning that it's kind of like, dude, where's my car? Like, dude, where's my car? Like,
Dude, where's my
dude, what did we do to the kids? I don't
dude,
know. We like
where's
left them
my the
on.
parts of
We
my
left them
body?
on. Dude, we left them on the neighbor's lawn,
Dude,
and
where's my life? My normal
yeah,
life go?
we also gave them like weird surgery. What?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
know, right?
exactly.
So
I think that's
the
why.
abuse too. The abuse is very visceral as well.
Absolutely, like
Yeah.
Chloe PragerU just got put onto the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate list. And
Good.
Chloe was one of the major reasons why. I'm like,
Oh, good.
what? Like, goodness, like this young lady is. But going back to that thing you were saying about Dragon Slayer,
Yeah.
one of the things I also love about this story is that it's a real Joan of Arc kind of story.
I like it.
It's like a real twist on a Joan of
Yeah.
Arc kind of story
Yep.
where it's like
Wow.
somebody
They wanted a
passed,
man, but they got a woman.
they got a woman,
There you go.
and then her fidelity to Christ inspired a
Mm,
nation
yes,
to
absolutely.
rise up to
I
the
love
point
that.
that it is centuries later. And I know who Joan of Arc is.
Absolutely.
I don't know who some of these like other little saints are that like, you know,
Yeah, I know, right?
mentioned, and
Great
you have
films
to
made
study them,
of
huh?
her too. Great films in cinema history made of her.
Yeah, exactly. You'll even see like women refer to themselves as Joan of Arc. I'm like, that's how rare it is that a woman rises to that level
Yeah.
that you have to point to Joan of Arc. And everybody who's like been through reincarnation, they always you'll
Oh,
invariably
right,
come
right.
through the woman. I was Joan of Arc, and
Was Joan of Arc.
really you? And like these 10 other women I met, you were all like, how did
So
that
many
work?
women.
It was like Joan of Arc, such an incredible soul that after
She
she
have
died,
legion inside of her.
she like split into 10 different souls, 100, 1,000. That's amazing,
That truly miraculous.
right? But Chloe has that archetype to her, so
I
it's
think so
like,
too. Yeah.
which I think is why she's like she's a powerful. I hate talking about her in the third person because I just cherish the young woman. But yeah, but her story is so important for
It
our
is.
time that I literally was at a meeting the other day, and they were talking about Patrick Henry, and I got up and I was talking about the project, and I got so excited. I said, "Give me the Chloe Cole movie or give me death."
Give me death.
And I was like, "Oh man, why did I speak that into existence? Why
No,
did
what
I
am I
do
doing to
that?
myself?
What did I put on myself?" My word of faith friends are like, "Why would you do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's like word of faith's not a thing, right?" But seriously, I said that because I
That's
just
right.
saw the power of this story that I've been like, the deeper I go into the forest with it, the more I'm like, this is the story that I need to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Does the story draw from her history more, or is it a completely original narrative that kind of identifies the difficulty with the trans community and stuff like that?
Well, if you look at like the music video,
Hmm.
right? The music video
Oh, she's
is,
protecting a younger kid.
yeah, she's protecting younger kids. So it's really
Yes.
like it's like the inner child thing. So it's like there's her story as a detransitioner, but a great
Right.
story transcends the details
Yeah.
of the narrative so that anybody can apply it to their lives. I always say a great movie is not one where you're coming out and talking about the performances and the lighting and
Hmm.
and the cinematography. A great movie is when you're come out, you're arguing about your life.
Right.
It's like my wife and I she's watching Friends. She watches sitcoms on repeat.
Right. Yes.
And so I've like watched Friends for the last year and a half on just like repeat, which is great because I'm like I get to study it. But
It's a nice warm blanket. It really
I
is.
know, but I
Yeah.
will tell you there are still times that I walk into the room and I'm like I will hear it playing in the background and I'm like, yeah, why did Rachel think she could do that? Like they were on a break. Like, okay, what? Hold on. Those are pretend people. He did something wrong, but I understand where he's coming from. I'm like,
Right. Right.
this is like a story
They're
from
getting
like 30 years
involved.
ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that was such a powerful narrative. It shaped culture
Yeah,
to
for
the
sure.
point that people, if I tell a Gen Z, like, we were on a break, they'll laugh. Or
Hmm.
they know who Jennifer Aniston is, and they
Right.
know who David Schwimmer is.
Shimmer. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these kinds of things kind of stick in your head. They're very influential in the zeitgeist, you could say. I think that certain tropes are unavoidable, right, when you're dealing with stuff like this, but also things could be turned on their head, right? I I liked the music video in the sense of her taking care of this younger girl. And I did sense some of that kind of inner child there. Maybe it's because they looked very similar, but maybe it's just because her care for the girl was almost like a care for self.
Yeah, exactly. When you care for children, yeah, that you know what? Caring for children is one of the strongest things you can do in the second commandment. Because when you are caring for children, you are caring for the child
Yeah.
within you.
Yeah.
You're standing up for the widow and the orphan.
Hmm.
Because oftentimes, like you'll talk to social workers. Why are you a social worker? Because when I was a kid, I was in foster care, or you'll
Right.
you'll get their story.
Yeah.
How come you're a drug and alcohol counselor? Because my dad was an alcoholic, and I
Yeah.
decided, okay,
So true.
that's great. Like even Steven Spielberg, when you talk to him, like when you study his movies, and you're like, well, there's a lot of kids running around with aliens and stuff. You're
Hmm.
finding out he's like in his movies, he dealt a lot with his parents' divorce
Yeah.
and
Time by
how
himself, time
right
in make believe.
and how he kind of stepped into this world of UFOs and everything,
Yeah.
and that's what makes him such a great filmmaker is he was able to understand
There's this deep
himself
kind of
as a child.
latent hurt associated with families for him, I think. Yeah. And it comes through in his
Yeah.
films.
And it does. It comes from the films, and
Yeah.
you see that in Jurassic Park when what happens at the end. The paleontologist who hates kids,
Yeah.
he saves the kids. And
I
everybody,
know, right?
right? That's kind of
There's
why
a
the rest
story
of
arc.
the
There's a character arc.
right. So even if he's doing something dumb about dinosaurs, he brought such human pathos to it that it was like we're still talking about it, and they're still
Hmm.
making movies off that franchise because it's just that powerful.
Yeah. So I'll be talking about your music video a little bit in my article. And do you have any other work I can also share in the article? Just to kind of give people an idea.
When I was younger, I did comedy and that kind of thing, and I did a lot of comedy. Then I went in and out of the industry because I'd get sick of the industry. Then I left it, and
I
finally,
did
when I
that.
got Jesus and I could handle the industry,
Yeah.
I came back and I said, I want to make a faith-based film. And I got to tell you, it has been so hard to do a faith-based film that's in it.
Yes.
So, so in the
I was
in
shocked by
that
that too.
in that journey, God gave me the experience that I needed to have to prepare me to make films in this space, which was I got screwed over by Christians.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got screwed over by churches.
Well, it can really hurt, right? So you do
Yeah,
have
I
to be
got
prepared for that.
tested. I really got
Yeah.
tested to be like, hey, you really want to do this? Because. And then I got actually when I got screwed over by my friend, I said, this is good because you can't really say you're a producer if you haven't been screwed over by a friend. Right?
Yes, that's very true.
So right then, and I've gone through all the iterations, but in the meanwhile, God gave me this opportunity to work in low budget filmmaking where I got my producer credits, I got my writing credits, I got my post production credits, I got my on set experience.
Hmm.
And I also worked a lot in TV production, so I
Great.
learned how to be a producer, to think like I said in this process. 20 years ago, if I would have done this process, I'd be writing a script and then hoping I'd pitch it somewhere.
Yeah.
These
I
days,
did that
I'm
a lot.
thinking like a producer, where I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what can I do to move the project down the road a little bit. So frankly, you look at my stuff, I've done like a lot of Lifetime movies and
Yeah.
worked on independent movies, but I learned how to
Good.
get stuff started and I learned how to finish it. But one of the things that I did finish on my own was a little web series called What the Church.
Oh,
Right, yeah.
yeah.
And that's on lore.tv. Yeah.
I think I've heard of that. In fact, I might have even seen some of that. I like
Yeah,
Lore. I like the guys from Lore, by the way.
yeah, yeah, I
They're
love
great
those
guys.
guys, and so they picked up this little thing that I did. It's got four. There's more episodes to it that I should put out there, but
Because they're
it's
they're
called.
not traditional faith-based. Like yeah.
Oh no no no! They're all the same problems I have, like
Yeah.
dealing with the worlds of Hollywood and church ladies and I hate to say it, even Charlie Kirk. I was having a conversation. I went to TPUSA in Florida. I was talking to
Hmm.
one of the guys that works with Charlie, and he's a comedian,
Hmm.
and I was talking about like, hey, what we started this conversation with was the importance of conservatives and Christians getting out there with narrative projects
Yep.
to broaden the discourse, to
Hmm.
bring more of God's truth into our culture,
Right.
which will then trickle down to politics, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, right. So I was having a little conversation about him and the importance of that. And he goes, I know. I talk to Charlie about that all the time, and he disagrees with me.
Hmm.
And I was
Wow.
like, Charlie Kirk. It was like, if this was a
Yeah,
movie, that we would cut to a high angle of me looking up and going like,
I
no.
know, right?
That would be like a good midpoint. Yeah.
It does appear like that's the case though with a lot of high profile
But it
influencers.
does. Yeah, they
Whether it's
just
Daily, starting to feel like Daily Wire is falling down the same path. They seem to be putting a lot of their energy into politics and their new location in DC. And I don't know what's going on with Jeremy Boring. Nobody apparently knows what's going on with Jeremy Boring. And like so, and then they got rid of a lot of their employees that are working for BentKey. And
no, I
so
know they got rid of their entire Bent Key staff.
to me, this is like a bad sign. They really need to get back into the culture.
I have a feeling that Daily Wire is regrouping.
Hmm.
I feel really good because actually one of the little signs is that I've kind of mentioned the Chloe movie to them. And I said, hey guys, as the next step, this is something else you can put in an article. As the
Okay.
next step in how can I raise funding for the short film, raise awareness about the issue, and also leverage like this music video and some of the other stuff that's out there already. I said, why don't I do a series of detransitioner themed documentaries here in Hollywood? Right?
Wow.
Like Hollywood
Yeah.
proper, with the message Hollywood, stop ignoring detransitioners and their stories.
Right.
Okay. And, I'd love it, if Trans Tifa would show up and, because they have. I talked to
Mhm.
one filmmaker already and they're like, yeah, I think we could do that. But be careful, the mob will come for you. I'm like, that's
We expect it now. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's that in Chloe's world, that's called Wednesday.
Yeah.
So yeah. Or good morning, Chloe. Here comes the trans
I know,
mob.
right?
But what Daily Wires did, they've got this great documentary called Identity Crisis that gives detransitioner stories and some of the other
Good.
ancillary like gender ideology stories. Like there's this one guy, Adam Vina. He's been fighting for his kids in the family court because the
Oh
court keeps
yeah.
on wanting to affirm that his five-year-old
That's major.
son is a
Yeah.
5-year-old girl, and they won't give him parental rights
I
because
just
of it.
heard about that happening in Colorado. Yeah. Did they
And
just
that's
pass a
right.
law?
In
Yeah.
fact, that's another movie that we're screening is Art Club, right?
Oh.
That's the first movie we're screening, Art Club. That's from a story from Colorado about a young girl named Chloe that
Is
got.
this your film as well?
No, no, no. This is what I decided. I'm going to take these detransitioner documentaries
Okay.
and screen them. And
Good.
Daily Wire gave me a license to screen Identity Crisis here in Hollywood.
Oh, good.
So that's what gives me a lot of hope about them, that they know what's going on and they're
Yeah.
like I think they're looking at the project. They got eyes on the project here.
Hmm.
So I just have to, you know what I have to do? I have to do my producer filmmaker due diligence
Yeah.
and not go to them and say like, "Hey guys, you want to make my dreams come true?" They're like,
Right.
"No, we're a
Yeah.
business." I need to come to them with value to say like, "Look, here, we've got this thing set up. You can partner with us, and that way you're getting value out of it too."
Hmm.
So that's why I'm taking the little by little approach. So that, but I'm
Good.
doing, but they're already reaching out, and letting me do this documentary screening here in LA. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I
yeah,
heard that's a
I know. I know.
co-production. I heard that film was a co-production, Identity Crisis, with TPUSA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Turning Point USA actually
Yeah.
produced it, and then Daily Wire picked it up for distribution.
Distribution. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, yeah. So
That's good.
yeah, so and it's great. So the other thing I realized, it would help me to get over the conversation of how's your documentary about Chloe going? I'm like, "Ugh, man, our conservatives, like they're like the Stone Age of cinema. It's like, no, 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 it's not a documentary.
Yeah.
It's a movie. It's a
Well, and that's the
narrative.
thing. That's the thing I'm concerned about Daily Wire too, is because as you were saying, they will work with a documentary project like Identity Crisis, but if you make a narrative about the Chloe Coles in the world, they might, I don't know if they would touch it now. Like, you know what I mean? Like I have doubts that they would really work in the culture more deeply. I feel that they
I,
seem to
I,
be with the Matt
I,
Walsh's kind of documentary, kind of comedic documentary thing, right?
yeah, yeah, they've had success with that. So like a good
Yeah,
business, they're going to stick to their like what works, guys. We don't want to be out of business next year, right? And I respect
right.
that. At the same time, I think their creative efforts didn't quite pay off for whatever reason. The movie business is a hard business, so
They
and
did spend a lot of money. And I'm not
and
saying
they
that that's why Jeremy has been canned, but like I really feel like they did some of the biggest kind of narrative projects you can do now. Almost like trying to go toe to toe with Hollywood. And like Pendragon Cycle looks amazing. I mean,
yeah
if you've seen the behind the scenes of that, it looks like Game of Thrones or something. But then I'm like, why would you do Game of Thrones right away? Like, take some time, make some small westerns, some small action movies, some small comedies. Like Lady Ballers was a nice small comedy. I think that was very successful, frankly. But then now they're doing these like super big projects, and I think that they might have gotten a little too big. Um,
yeah. That's it's just like welcome to the business, kid.
yeah,
They're
that's true.
not the first studio to get in trouble.
Yeah, nobody knows
Like
anything, right, in Hollywood.
right, right. So yeah, the studios that make it are the studios that learn their lessons. You know. Those
True.
are,
Yeah,
remember MGM got bought out. This is like the golden and platinum era of Hollywood stalwart studio.
yeah,
And I think Amazon picked them up most recently, mainly because of their
yeah.
catalog. They've got a
Oh,
great
okay.
catalog and a brand, right?
Yeah,
So it's like that's just kind of the movie business. The movie business is
right.
one about perseverance.
Yeah.
I
Well, now they're
just
owned by these big megacorps, so they don't even
right, yeah,
like they
yeah.
could fail all day and they don't care.
Yeah, exactly. They're a brand. They've been tested. But
Yeah.
it's like where is RKO these days, It's like
Oh, that'd be good.
right,
Bring it
yeah.
back.
But you know what I'm
Bring United
saying?
Artists back.
Right. So I have a lot
Yeah.
of respect for Daily Wire and the fact that, because I've had little criticisms for them in the past and everything, but at the end of the day, they're still here.
Yeah.
They're still doing the work. They are at the forefront of a lot of stuff. I mean, Matt
Absolutely
Walsh
true.
himself like helped
Hmm.
get laws on the books
Yes,
that
major.
went
Like
all the
who
way
else
to the
is doing that?
Supreme
Who
Court.
else is doing that?
That's right. So they are
Yeah.
changing, because
Yeah.
politics can also change culture.
And I
I,
defend
I
them as well. I
yeah,
defend
yeah.
them as well. I'm just concerned because I haven't heard from them in like with Jeremy Boring in like 3 months, is it? I don't know. We haven't heard
No,
what they're
yeah,
doing.
they've been quiet and but who knows? But I don't know. They're talking to me a little bit now. They're being nice
Oh,
to me.
good.
So
I
let's
have this theory. I don't know if this makes good content on my interview, but I have this this theory that Jeremy Boring is actually working on a brand, a film, like a film brand, that's like not directly associated with Daily Wire, but more like their own thing, kind of like Bonfire Legend, right? It
oh yeah,
like
yeah. Or
Dalsonier's,
Like Pinnacle Pictures did
yeah,
with Pure
their own
Flix.
label, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Yeah,
and
maybe that's
that
what he's
Jeremy
doing.
Boring is working on kind of because what I saw behind the scenes, because us producers, we have to look at the trades and all this stuff, and I'm seeing connections here between what Jeremy Boring, Dallas Sonier, and these other filmmakers like Travis Mills are doing behind the scenes. They're all making these conservative-ish westerns, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking, are they actually making more films under our noses and they're just not telling us? And eventually they will reveal it, right? Just like how they did with Benki. They revealed it after they'd already made it.
Right, yeah. There's a
It's a
little bit of
theory.
is there a little bit of trust the plan in there?
Yes, there's a little copium, a little bit of 4D chess in there,
A
but
little like, please let this be
yeah,
4D chess. Let Elon and Trump just be putting on a great show, Lord.
wouldn't that be great?
Please, please.
I know,
Let it
please.
just be like political theater, please. Right,
It's so
yeah.
true. When you don't know what else to do, right? You're like grasping for
Yeah,
like
exactly. So
curatorial straws.
at the end
Yeah,
of the day, I always figure I hear stuff, I see stuff, but until I'm really in the room and I know what's going on, you're talking to the players, you don't know. You just don't know.
you
And
really have
so
no
it's
idea.
like, okay, what can I do? I can curse the darkness. or I can light a candle. And again, that's where I came up with the whole project, was thinking like, why isn't Hollywood well,
Sometimes you have to be the
okay,
one.
Mr. Emilio, you can criticize John Irwin all day long, but you don't have a nice office there on the studio like he
Right.
does. So maybe God has a plan with him too. Maybe you can
Yeah.
kind of chill your boots a little bit there. And I go like, okay, because actually he just came out with a great movie called Sketch on Angel Studios.
Yes. Love
I
it.
just saw it the other night. I was at the premiere. Yeah, it was real fun. In fact, my grandkids were playing. They were making like little monster
Oh, cute.
yeah, they were like sketching some stuff, and I was like, those you guys aren't, please do not make those monsters come alive right now. We don't have time to clean up after them. And then they were like, no. And then like,
Yeah, they're gonna want to do it.
yeah, but then that's like a nice little memory between me and my grandkids that they'll carry on for the rest of their lives, right?
That's great. I need to see that film probably tomorrow. I'm hoping to see it tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was nice because I didn't feel like I was being taxed. I felt like I was going to the movies and watching a movie that I would take my grandkids to.
That's awesome. I hope
That's
it's a
yeah.
new leaf for Angel. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So that's the other, because see that's the other place that maybe I could take this movie if I get it going.
Yeah.
Or who knows, maybe some Netflix executive will have a come to Jesus moment and say like, he's absolutely right. We need to start telling these detransitioner stories with the honor and respect they deserve. Let me think. I don't
I
know
can
why I'm
so
saying
see
this, but
Netflix
I also
saying,
have a strong urge to go to church this Sunday.
okay,
You know,
that's a bit of hopium there too.
hey, you know what? That hopium is possible
We can
because
dream. We can dream.
remember, the early church was being savagely persecuted by this guy named Saul. And the next
That's
thing I know, he's like, it
so
was
true.
like during the Roman Empire, like during the Diocletian persecutions
Yeah.
in the late 200s. It's like people were like, "Oh no, the church is going to be snuffed out," and like just a few years later, well, like Diocletian dies, and then a few years later, Constantine, the emperor, is saying, "Hey, let's get together and find out what
Hey,
exactly like what's the Bible and
I'm
well,
glad you know
all
that
the
stuff. That's so
yeah,
cool. And
yeah,
St. George happened right before then,
yeah,
right?
exactly."
St. George gets tortured to death, right? And I think that had a huge impact. That's why we talk about him today, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whether you think he was evil or not, he did have a huge impact on the history of Christendom. So
Yeah.
you always, yeah. So it's at the end of the day, I find I can complain, I can look, I can everything, but two things: God's in charge. I'm not. I need to be humble and do my part. And sometimes that means me just stepping out in courage and faith and grabbing my sword, slaying, going after the dragon, and then realizing, oh wait, that girl, that little boy that you thought was fighting alongside of you, he was
Yeah.
actually a girl. He was a
Wow.
girl dressed up as a boy. That's how we're going to take down the dragon, folks. So
Yeah. Yeah. Like Dragon Slayer.
yeah, exactly.
Wow, what a great end to the interview. I really hope that we can meet again and talk about this. And I actually have another podcast I'm working on called Development Heaven,
Okay.
where Christians and conservatives get together and talk about developing their projects to make them better. So if you're interested, I would love to, and obviously I respect any, wishes to keep story ideas and things private. And so these things could be, highly edited or it could be for our own use. Um, but I find that doing this kind of thing is going to be necessary because there's so few of us now working. We're going to have to work through methods like this. But I also think that when good Christian and conservatives make art, they should share it. And because that we need to inspire other people to be able to do the same thing. So I think it's about kind of like teaching people how to do it, right? How to develop good projects, but also what is a good project, right? Defining it. Like why will this speak to the audience, but this won't speak to the audience? Our characters, loving our characters, and like you were talking about the hero's journey, how to do something that respects the hero's journey without just always being a ripoff and a copy of everything over and over. How does someone do that, right? And so I think development is overlooked because they just think it's script writing and then you get it produced. Maybe you like the notes you get, maybe you don't, and then you just go forward and produce it. No, no, development is so necessary.
Exactly. It's what I hear. It's like I'll run into people who say, God downloaded this script to me. And I'm like, okay, well, hopefully he downloaded some script notes because you're also going to need those.
Yeah, and are you a guru also?
Yeah, like hopefully he downloaded like 6 revisions
Yeah.
as well.
Does he have any visions for me too?
Because you're going to need them
Hmm.
if you're going to go through this journey
Yes.
of coming up with a great script.
Yeah,
Or
imagine if a plumber showed up to your house and was like, God told me how to fix the pipes in your house.
yeah,
Trust
exactly.
me.
I'm like, it's possible. Look, I'm not saying it's possible. He's had, he's like, didn't he tell the widow and her son to fill up the jars and
Yes. Yeah. With faith.
amazing.
With
Look,
faith.
it's like,
But that's
uh,
Elijah, right? Wasn't that Elijah?
yeah, that was with Elijah. It's like
He's got a reputation already.
that's how they
Everyone knows who
survived.
he is.
And right in the moment they questioned it, it like dried up. I was like, okay, all right, God,
Right.
right. Here's the deal: Hollywood walks in fear and trembling of the movie making process.
Mm.
Right? Christians need to walk a little fear and trembling of it as well
Yeah.
because
Yeah. It's
that is the
powerful.
fear of the Lord.
Yeah.
Ironically, the pagans are willing to do the things to make great stories. They also make a lot of horrible, awful stories
They
and just,
do.
and soul porn, porn for every kind of
Yeah.
deviation of the human soul,
Yep. Yep.
uh, you
I
know.
don't even watch barely anything from Hollywood now.
No, I know. Yeah, they'll make like violence porn, torture. You've heard like torture porn, where like
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the horror movies are like, oh my goodness,
Like,
who's
why?
disturbing? Right? Yeah, which is why I say again, like, why wouldn't they touch the detransitioners? So like that should be
Yeah.
like a Bloomhouse movie or something.
Well, this has got me inspired as well.
Okay, awesome,
And
beautiful.
it really is because probably partially because of watching Dragon Slayer, but also so many of these other stories like Saint George and the Dragon and what you were talking to me about, like caring for your inner self. Like a lot of these has me thinking about developing a script as well. I was working on a science fiction recently, and I thought this would really work with the transitioning idea and the way that things are going with, the stuff you hear on X with Elon Musk and things like this. The way things are going, the technology, the way it's going, you never know what it's going to be in 20 years. I mean, it could be wild and crazy.
No,
So,
exactly, and that's part of what helps. Great. Part of what helps create scientific breakthroughs is actually narrative.
yeah, absolutely.
Where did the name Grok come from?
Oh, yeah.
Came from a novel about Martian
Oh, I didn't know that.
colonization.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's
That's
where
cool.
Grok. That's why he named it Grok.
I was just thinking it means think, like
No, well, it means
it
think,
does,
but
but
they Robert
there
Heinlein
was more
came up
to it.
with. He came up
Okay.
with he coined the term for his novel, Stranger in a Strange Land. Right.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. My wife read that, but I never read it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. So it's like
yeah,
stories are very, very fundamental to human understanding. And again, the pagans in Hollywood understand that.
they do.
Why do Christians run away from it? I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
The devil kind of outconned us. Don't worry, we're coming back. We learned our
Yes, we
lesson.
are. We
We're
are.
coming back. So
Slowly but surely. All right, sir. We'll have to keep in touch, and I'd love to continue this conversation as you develop your project more. And if you're interested in chatting and developing more stuff, I'm your man, development
okay,
heaven.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. We should have like an actual offline conversation. That's
Yeah,
for
we could do that.
sure. Yeah, okay, that sounds great. Yeah, thanks for shining some more light. We're just trying to
Thank you
get the
so
word out
much.
there. Yeah, and this is gonna help so much just having this. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emilio.
No, thank you, John. Appreciate
All
it.
right, we'll keep in touch.
Okay.
Let me know what you think of our interview by commenting down below. To get future interviews, like and subscribe, and have a great weekend, guys.